There are a ton of videos on the internet where unlikely animals make friends, like these.
When I see Samson and Cleo, I see two very different animals who love each other and trust each other. Samson is a huge dog and Cleo is a tiny, tiny kitten. So it really shows that friendship doesn't have any bounds. Anybody can be friends.
It's super cute, a little bit bizarre, and very inspiring to see two different species with so many differences and no reference point to bond over still find a true and intimate connection. Paul makes his appeal to a courtroom full of people that probably felt like a different species at the time. Let's see what common ground he finds with them and what we can learn from it. Acts 26, 1-8. Then Agrippa said to Paul, "You have permission to speak for yourself." So Paul motioned with his hand and began his defense. "King Agrippa, I consider myself fortunate to stand before you today as I make my defense against all the accusations of the Jews, and especially so because you are well acquainted with all the Jewish customs and controversies. Therefore, I beg you to listen to me patiently. The Jewish people all know the way I have lived ever since I was a child. From the beginning of my life in my own country and also in Jerusalem, they have known me for a long time and can testify, if they're willing, that I conform to the strictest sect of our religion, living as a Pharisee. And now it is because of my hope in what God has promised our ancestors that I am on trial today. This is the promise our 12 tribes are hoping to see fulfilled as they earnestly serve God day and night. King Agrippa, it is because of this hope that these Jews are accusing me. Why should any of you consider it incredible that God raises the dead?" Today we'll do a little exegetical hopscotch. We'll deal first with verse 1, then verse 8, and then back to the middle in verse 4. Remember in verse 1, Paul is chained, so imagine how he stretches out his hands so that everyone in the court sees very clearly his circumstances. It's a sermon in and of itself. In Philippians chapter 1, verse 13, that this bondage is actually a blessing, not a burden, because it binds me closer to Jesus. This is a fascinating last line in verse 8, and it's another resurrection mic drop. Remember, the Pharisees believe in the concept of resurrection. Paul is searching for common ground. Finally, let's close out in the middle in verse 4. Paul says, "You know me, you know my life." He says, "Ever since I was a kid, they have seen me. There's no secrets. You know who my teachers were. You know who Gamaliel was, my mentor." Any Christian today should be able to say the same thing, that you know my life, that people know how I've lived. Because as they say, people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. But someone's got to know you in order for that to begin. So whether you're a dog or a cat or a bird, yes, you might be different species with the people that you're sharing the good news with, but there's also a lot of unexplored common ground waiting to be discovered. And sure, you might get bit in the process, but better to have tried and have scars than to never have tried at all, because when it works, it's a miracle.